Blog Talk Radio.
Raw living is a state of mind, a way of being in alignment with your body. Raw living means you put yourself and your body first. Your host, Sidhu-Robb, is the founder of Nosh Detox, located in the UK. They offer innovative raw food smoothies sold across Europe. You experience it in your skin, your body, and your mind. And now it's time for Living Raw Radio.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Living Raw Radio. My name is Naomi, and I am a nutritionist here at Nosh Detox. I am standing in today for your usual host, Sidhu-Robb, who is the founder of Nosh Detox. And today, the topic of today's show is going to be vegetarianism and veganism. So really looking at the health benefits of switching to a largely plant-based diet. Now, here at Nosh, we are real advocates of a raw food diet. So a large proportion of our food that we send out is actually in line with a vegetarian and a vegan diet. We're not exclusively vegetarian or vegan, but we're finding that more and more clients are turning that way and looking towards a vegetarian and vegan diet for health benefits. So what I want to do today is really just not to focus too much on the science, but actually talk to a couple of people who have changed their diet for one reason or another, either for ethical reasons or for health reasons, and have changed their diet towards a more largely plant-based diet. And I want to chat to them. I think a lot of people resonate well with actually hearing people's personal experiences as opposed to being told why they should eat this and why they shouldn't eat that. It's really nice to actually hear firsthand somebody's experience of what they've done with regards to their diet and how they have felt as a result. So we're going to be focusing on vegetarian and vegan diets. And if we look at the evidence for following this sort of food plan, I mean, it's really, really positive. Vegan and vegetarian diets are usually higher in fiber, they're higher in minerals such as magnesium, folic acid, vitamins C and E, and phytochemicals, which have really powerful antioxidant properties. Vegan and vegetarian diets typically are also lower in calories, saturated fat, and cholesterol. And typically, vegans and vegetarians, statistics show they actually enjoy a lower risk of cardiovascular disease, of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and some cancers as well. And this has largely been attributed to actually a higher intake of fruit and vegetables and the health benefits of this. Associations have also been made with whole grain consumption and whole grains and a decreased risk of cancer, of diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. There have also been positive links between consumption of soya products and nuts, which have been shown to have significant cardioprotective effects. There's also been evidence and studies to suggest that actually a high intake of red meat may be associated with an increased risk of certain types of cancers, so especially colorectal cancer. There's been a lot of attention on this in the news recently. It's now thought to be maybe more focused on processed meat. But still, the studies are there, and there's suggestions that potentially a diet high in red meat could be attributing to these conditions. Now, what we need to be really careful when looking at evidence such as this. I mean, it provides a compelling story, and I think you can Google veganism and vegetarianism, and you can really, really find that there's a lot of evidence out there to suggest that it's really beneficial for your health. The problem is when interpreting nutritional data, however, is that studies are association studies. So what I mean by this is that they show links rather necessarily showing cause and effect. For example, we could look at a study like the one that's been in the news recently, which shows a link between red meat consumption and increased link of colorectal cancer. And whilst we can see a positive association, it's actually really hard to definitively say that red meat causes colorectal cancer. For example, perhaps someone who doesn't eat red meat eats a higher than usual intake of fruit and vegetables. Perhaps they get more fibre in their food intake. Perhaps, for example, they're more health conscious, and for that reason they drink more water or they do more exercise. And so how do we know that it's not the fact that they don't eat red meat, but it's one of these other factors that are causing their health risks and their cancer fighting effects to be more? So this really is the problem with nutritional studies. And when it comes to gathering evidence, I think as compelling as I could put an argument together for a vegan and vegetarian diet, I could probably put an equally compelling argument together for eating meat and eating dairy. So I think what I want to focus on today is that there really is no argument against the fact that a diet high in fruit and vegetables, high in whole foods and low in processed refined foods is not beneficial for your health. I mean, we can argue about certain bits and pieces. We can argue about whether meat is good, dairy is good or bad, but really no one is going to argue against the fact that if we up our fruit and veg, up our plant-based foods, and lower our intake of refined processed foods, that's not going to be beneficial for our health. So what I want to do is I'm going to bring on a couple of guests today, and what we're going to do is hear about their personal experiences with changing their diet and going towards a more plant-based whole food diet. And our first guest, Mike, he, in his own words, has taken the Paul McCartney approach to eating. So if it has a face, he won't touch it. And his reasons for going vegetarian, I'll let Mike give himself a bit of an intro in a minute, but his reasons were purely health-driven. So Mike, I think back in 2003, I think we're talking about 9-10 years ago, he was a situation I'm sure a lot of you can identify with. Very, very high-stress, powerful job, working all the hours that God sends, working every hour of the day. Exercise became something that he didn't really have much time for. Eating became something he had to do. It just to fit in with his lifestyle, grab something here and there. And he slowly put on the weight, and his health started to suffer as a result. And Mike actually got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And as he's going to go and tell you in a minute, I think that was really the trigger for him to change things and to look at his diet and think, right, what am I going to do to stop myself going down this road? So hopefully I've got Mike there. Mike, are you there? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, Mike.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
Yeah, fine. You can hear me, yeah?
Yes, I can hear you. Have you been hearing me just now?
I have, yes.
Fantastic, Mike. So you probably heard my intro, but if you can just kind of introduce yourself to everyone and just give us a background on what the point where you turned vegetarian, the point where you had your diagnosis of type 2 diabetes.
Okay, well, I was 52 years of age. It was March 2003. I got fatter and fatter. I'd just given up smoking, so I kind of added to the increased foods that I was already eating. I was eating sort of rump steaks that hung over the sides of plates, probably drinking too much beer, working far too hard. And I was snacking out on crisps and ice cream to avoid smoking cigarettes. And I got as fat as John Prescott's younger brother, if he's got one. It all gone horribly, horribly wrong.
And what period of time are we talking here? How was this over months, years?
Yeah, the diabetes, I suspect, was there for probably a couple of years, but it kicked in with a rather rampant pace when I started drinking gallons of water. I was peeing for England. I developed spots. I've never had spots on my face in my life. Felt constantly tired. Oh, well. it's a very awful experience. My blood pressure was off the scale. I'd have headaches that would stop me in my stride in the street where my blood must have been so full of glucose. And eventually I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. The doctor, or my GP, had said to me that most people end up on pills and eventually injections, but not that many people took his advice, but you can actually do it with a diet if you eat, which struck me as unusual, a complex carbohydrate diet, because I always figured carbohydrates made you even fatter.
Okay, and was this your GP who gave you this guidance and who
initially
suggested that? Okay.
Yeah. Then I started searching websites to find out more about type 2 diabetes. I found one. I think it was certainly on the west coast of America, that said you can do a vegetarian high complex carbohydrate diet. And for some obscure reason, that appealed to me. I like the idea of raw foods. I like the idea of the doctor saying to me, get fit, lose weight. So I gave up alcohol. I lost 7 stone in 6 months. I was 19 stone at the time. I'm 11 stone 10 now. I stand 6'1", so I'm pretty good weight at the moment. I lost that all in that 6 months, and I've kept it off.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely incredible. At the time you received your diagnosis, were you given an ultimatum? I mean, did the doctors say you need to change your diet or you're going to have to go on to medication, or did they?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, you did. Yeah. Yeah.
And sorry,
I interrupted. My apologies.
And so, how did you feel at that point? Did you? For those who are listening who aren't really familiar with type 2 diabetes and sort of what it is and what its causative factors are, can you sort of just fill them in really brief terms?
Well, basically, the insulin that your pancreas produces isn't doing its job. It's not sort of carrying the sugar around your body. You get an overspill of sugar into your bloodstream, which eventually ends up in your bladder, and you start visiting the loo a lot. In fact, in my case, even when I got my sugar levels back under control, that visiting the loo was triggered because I was drinking so much caffeine, which again, another doctor advised me about. Just said basically give up all forms of caffeine and you will cure this problem of going to the loo, which was making me suicidal at the time. For those who don't understand, I mean, when you get type 2 diabetes, as you said, your body just can't cope with the sugar that it's having to process. It's just not, the cells in your body can't take up the sugar anymore, and so you're getting really high levels of sugar in your bloodstream. And what that does is that draws fluid out of the tissues, which is why you're chronically thirsty and always going to the loo. Yeah.
As obviously you're aware, but just to let everyone else know, if those sugar levels are left untreated, then it can have a lot of long-term effects and quite dangerous effects. So.
Oh, cracky, yes. I go for tests, a couple of times a year now. They stick pins in your toes to see if you've got feeling in your extremities, because it's the nerve ends at the extremities of your body that are at risk. If the blood's not reaching them, you almost create like a mini gangrenous effect, I guess I'd describe it as.
Yeah.
It's just a rotten thing to have, and anybody who's got themselves fat and they got into middle age, then I would say to them, go and get tested at a doctor, because you could have it without knowing before it actually.
Yeah, no, absolutely, really good advice. So
I just took up the mantra, have a passion for food, not a passion for eating.
Is your passion for food always been there? I mean, you went to the doctors and you came away, and the idea of having to completely overhaul your diet, sort of, how did you do it? Tell us a little bit about what were the first steps. I mean, was it hard?
Well, abject fear does cause you to take steps. Yeah, I figured that as soon as the weight was coming off, that diabetes 2 was probably the best thing that happened to me. I was just heading for burnout.
It was the trigger point you needed.
And another thing that's quite important, the exercise. My every day, Christmas Day included, I do 12k on a cross trainer. First thing in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm doing that. It sounds boring to a lot of people, but I used to travel to work 2 hours each way. So 24, 26 minutes on a cross trainer is nothing. But you can reduce your sugar levels. If you wake up in the morning with a last vestige of yesterday's glucose in your bloodstream, you can knock that blood count right back in say 25 minutes on a cross trainer. You can retest yourself before and afterwards, and you can find your blood sugars spot on where it should be. So exercise, I think raw foods are good. I'm quite a good cook, but I find the raw carrots taste nicer than cooked carrots to me, for example. And you can play around with lots of different salads. You can, tend to go for organic stuff.
So you're a big advocate of raw food as well, not just vegetarianism, but a real raw food.
Yeah, accidentally, really. That was a complete accident. It was just along the way I found that, it was making me feel really full. I didn't have to pig out on things. And as long as I eat, I go for my sort of dark rye breads and, so wholemeal stuff I cook for myself. Even if I eat a potato, which is rare, I'll eat it with the skin on. And I certainly would never fry anything ever again.
So talk me through a typical day in your diet now.
Sort of a homemade muesli for breakfast. Probably 2 or 3 small slices of rye with, really, I don't know, a little bit of Vegemite on it or something like that.
Yeah.
In the evenings, it'll be an organic tofu. It might be lentils, with a salad, generally just a raw salad. Nothing processed. I've avoided processed because I think that was one of my downfalls. And feel a million times better for it. I feel fitter at 62 than I ever did at 52. I certainly couldn't have done 12K and a cross-tainer at 52 and 19 stone. It definitely would have been impossible. And I had been very fit prior to... It's in my 40s. I think this happens to a lot of men, men particularly. Played sport all my life and suddenly you're working really, really hard. The world just sort of changes for you and you don't realise it's changing until... luckily, in my case, it wasn't too late. In the case of some people, it is too late. They're not around, but
no, I mean, absolutely. And I mean, what was the support like you had around you? I mean, obviously, you overhauled your diet and you had this kind of trigger point and you had to change things completely. And obviously, how that has an influence on every aspect of your life because obviously you're not always just eating at home. You're eating out and you're going out with people, and to do something like that, you need the support of people around you. Did you find you had that?
Well, certainly with GPs and nurses at doctors' practices, I found very good. But I tend to hunt alone. I mean, my wife was very supportive. Yeah. But running my own business, I just feel you want to hunt alone. I mean. Yeah. Yeah, yes, the support certainly from the NHS was superb. And say my wife would, if I got a bit depressed, would give me a kicking and things would work out again.
I think it's encouraging to hear that you've had such a positive experience with your doctor and you had good, sound medical advice. I think we find sometimes that people find that's quite a rare experience, and often as a nutritionist, I have people come to me who have been to doctors and have really only been given the medication route and are frustrated by that. And it sounds like that you had really good guidance from your GP that diet was actually really, really key. And you were given, from what I understand, some form of education on that.
I was living in Devon at the time. It was a guy who was their specialist in diabetes. He was one of the partners there, and I think that probably worked in my favour. But I'm really quite pleased with the outcome.
You obviously did your own research as well.
Tons of it. That's how I found the idea, which rather appealed to me. I'd fancied being a vegetarian going back to the 60s as sort of an ageing hippie. I didn't eat a lot of meat then, but of course in business you tend to be out for lunch and everybody eats meat, and I just fell on the bandwagon. But basically, it really is the best thing that happened to me because it changed everything that I do. It was like watching Arsenal beat Spurs 5-0 every week. It was one of those wonderful things, And I hope you're not a Spurs supporter, but there you go. But that passion for food, the passion for food, not a passion for eating, I think is important. I still cook. I'm quite a good cook. I cook for dinner parties. I don't eat the meat.
And I think that's actually a passion for food rather than a passion for eating. I mean, I think that really actually puts it across really, really nicely. I think it's rediscovering real food, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, if I've got a regret, and I suppose it's a regret with my tongue in my cheek, but I'll know for the rest of my life, I'll never know what a doner kebab tastes like sober.
I don't think
because it's off my menu. I never had one sober, you see. But I guess if you're looking at the worst thing you could possibly eat, that's right up there, isn't it? all these things create diabetes.
It's pretty nutritionally void, I think.
And the other thing I can say, that diabetes isn't always about a sweet tooth. I didn't have a sweet tooth. I just ate loads of animal fat. That rump steak that would hang across my plate, I would eat the fat. That would be my favourite piece. That's how repulsive my lifestyle was.
Okay, I mean, that's really interesting, because I think a lot of people actually make the association with diabetes and eating too much sugar.
Yeah, I did.
And I mean, actually, it's not just about that. It's much more complex than that as a condition.
Yeah.
I mean, what was your intake of? I know now your diet is high in complex carbohydrates, but the sort of refined carbohydrates are things like white rice, pasta, bread, things like that. Did they play a key part in your diet before your diagnosis?
They did at the time. White pasta particularly. I've never been a great fan of. I've always preferred brown rice for some obscure reason, but I don't eat pasta now because, funny, the only wholemeal item I don't like is wholemeal pasta.
Okay.
It just doesn't have that kick. It just hasn't got that bite to it. But yeah, it's the salads and the rye breads and organic tofu, which is there's a number of, I guess you can't advertise, but there's loads that I use that I particularly like that you can pretty much get in any health food shop these days. But just I'd say to anybody, keep away from the processed. It didn't work. I'm an example of someone who's proven insofar as one can.
And what about your energy levels? Have you noticed a big difference in those since changing your diet?
I've not had a common cold for 7 or 8 years. My energy levels are phenomenal. I mean, I've got a damaged leg from years ago, but I can walk the steepest hill. You know, I lived at the cliffs near Dover, and I can pound across those cliffs for miles. Nothing's an issue anymore. And at 62, I'm quite pleased with that, and it's not ancient, but I hope I can do that for longer.
And you talked about the fact that you drank a lot of beer before. Is your alcohol? Do you drink any alcohol now, or did that go completely? Or
no, I left it off for a year. I have a couple of glasses of red now and then, a decent red. But I was the person who, just to get rid of the stress from work, especially when I was in the finance industry before we ran the investigations company, and it's an after-work thing. It's during the Thatcher era. That's what people were doing. You'd wake up, make a few quid, and end up in the pub at night. So I'd recommend that alcohol intake to anybody would be reduced. Certainly in the early stages of being diagnosed, forget alcohol. Just forget it completely. But thereafter, you can have a couple of glasses of red along the way. It's a nice unwind at the end of a day, isn't it? But I don't think I've been drunk in any sense of the word, even slightly drunk in the whole decade since I gave up. It's just something I do for pleasure now, as opposed for stress necessity.
So I mean, it was a complete diet and lifestyle overhaul for you, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, and a good one.
In many respects.
Yeah. I mean, it was almost like anarchy of my diet. I erased everything that had gone before, as a good anarchist would, and started afresh. Anarchy in the diet. Perhaps that's not a good expression.
Were you aware of the power of food and the really powerful effect the food has on your body? Did you have that awareness before this?
If I'm honest, the answer to that is yes. It's just that I put it on the back burner. It's only when I was suddenly fearful, and fear does motivate, that I suddenly drew all the things that I'd learned, the new things I was learning together, and thought this new way of life is for me. Fantastic. And I think our family is fitter. You know, my youngest son is still with us. The others are much older and long gone. But my wife, her diet, I mean, she still eats meat, but I mean, she did really well. I mean, she lost a bit of weight. She didn't really need to, but she lost a bit of weight just through mimicking my diet, occasionally eating what I would eat.
So what you've done has had a positive influence on the people around you as well.
Yeah, you can have. Yeah, as long as they don't harp on about it, which I don't. You know, if I'm, so you've got to be a bit careful on those things of not sort of going on and boring people to death. So I've tried not to do that. I hope I'm not doing it to people now listening.
No, I mean it's really, really interesting, and as I said at the beginning, I mean, I can harp on about the health benefits and what the studies show, and be very, very dull about the nutritional benefits of turning to a more plant-based diet. But I think everyone resonates really well from actually hearing from someone who's done it and how they actually feel.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wasn't that worried about meat before, but looking back, I know, I'm like the Paul McCartney phrase, which I really like, if it's got a face, don't eat it.
Yeah.
And I really feel quite strongly about stuff like that now. And the organic side, that's good for wildlife, let alone organic food being probably better than regular cultivated crops for the body. So you're not only helping people around you, you're helping nature.
No, exactly.
It's good for butterflies, bees, and all that sort of stuff, isn't it? So there's a galaxy of areas where coming to terms with an illness and trying to deal with it can help not just yourself but other people.
Yeah, no, and you've turned it into a really positive thing, so it's really fantastic and really inspiring. So thank you so much for coming on and chatting, Mike. It's been really interesting to hear your story, and I'm sure you'll have inspired a lot of people. So thank you so much.
Right, cheers, thank you.
Thank you, and we're going to take a short break now, and then after the break, I'm going to be chatting to my second guest. Her name is Helen, and she's actually taken it to a further extreme, and she's a full-on vegan. So I'm just going to be chatting to Helen about her reasons for turning to a vegan diet and the health benefits she has found with this. So we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Bloated? Is your energy levels really low? Do you find everything that you eat goes straight to fat? My name is Candice, and I am the naturopathic nutritionist at Nosh Detox. I'm here to tell you that your body needs a rest. If that sounds like you are ready to try a Nosh juice fast. A juice fast is the most natural way for your body to detox, while providing you all the life-saving minerals and vitamins that your body needs and craves. From beginners to advanced juices, we have all the options that may be available to you or suited to you. Call me on 0845 257 6674 or go to noshdetox.com and click on the right program for you. I'm right here to help you and support you. Thank you.
Nosh Detox is an award-winning company for your ultimate health improvement. Nosh Detox system works on all areas of the body, having dealt with thousands of clients whose health dramatically improved within days. For more details, visit noshdetox.com. noshdetox.com.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Living Raw Radio. My name is Naomi Mead, and we have been talking in the first part of this show about vegetarianism and veganism, and we've just had a really interesting chat with Mike, who turned vegetarian about 10 years ago in response to a diagnosis he got from his doctor that he had type 2 diabetes. And he's just been putting together a really compelling case for the advantages of a vegetarian diet and how it's really turned his health around and actually taken years off his life in terms of his fitness and health and energy levels. And what I want to do now is I've got another guest coming on, and her name is Helen, and she is a vegan, and she turned vegan about 4 years ago. And what I'd like to do is just chat to her about her reasons for turning to a vegan diet. And then we're going to learn a little bit about what that's meant for her, the effects it's had on her life and her health and her well-being. So hopefully I've got Helen with me. Hi, Helen.
Hi, Naomi.
Thank you so much for joining me. So Helen, can you give us a little bit of an introduction and tell us the point where you turned to a vegan diet and your reasons for doing that?
Okay, well, I turned vegan just over 4 years ago now, and my reasons were based on ethics. I have a friend called Laura who's vegan, and I was talking to her about her veganism, and initially I just thought she was a bit crazy, and I didn't really fully connect with what she was saying, and I didn't really want to believe what she was saying either. But I kind of knew in the back of my mind, whenever I bought meat, that something wasn't quite right about the industry. That's what I felt. So I decided, based on my discussion with her, that even though I thought she was a bit crazy, I'd go away and look into it myself.
Okay, so what sort of research did you do yourself?
Well, I looked on, I just did lots of searches on the internet and saw a lot of the way animals are farmed, and where the majority of our meat kind of comes from, and generally how it's, I guess just how it's farmed, and I didn't agree with a lot of what I saw, and so I kind of developed this philosophy of following the route of least harm, and I figured that I could get nearly all of my nutrients through a vegan diet. So if that was a way of not causing harm to anything, that's what I would do. And I actually thought it would have a detrimental effect on my health, which was something that was a concern to me as someone who felt that they followed a healthy diet.
What was your major concern in terms of your health, and why did you think it might be detrimental?
Well, I really thought that I wouldn't be getting all the nutrients I needed.
Okay.
I thought that you had to eat your meat for protein and drink your milk for calcium. I was along those lines of thinking. Yeah. But as it turns out, I can get every single nutrient I need without eating animal products, and so it didn't feel right to go down the route of eating animal products if I didn't need to. I didn't need to cause harm. And that was where it all began for me.
So when you made the decision, was it a gradual progression into a vegan diet, or did you make the decision and then the next day go, right, that's it, and change things completely? How was it?
It was meant to be a gradual transition over a couple of months. And I was going to cut out meat, and then I was going to cut out dairy and eggs. But I was vegetarian essentially for 4 days, and I was pouring myself a cup of coffee with milk one day, and I just felt, after what I saw, from the dairy farms, I couldn't drink it. I just felt too guilty. So after 4 days, I just became an outright vegan, and I haven't looked back since.
Okay, so in terms of your diet beforehand, was this a major change? I mean, were you someone who included a lot of animal products in your diet anyway, or was this something that you'd kind of maybe had at the back of your mind for a while?
No, well, I've always been, from quite a young age, I've been quite health conscious.
Okay.
So I was omnivorous. I ate home cooked meat, foods, dairy. I had a very all-inclusive diet, mostly unprocessed. I cooked most of my own foods, and I was always trying to incorporate lots of different healthy foods just to make sure I was as healthy as I could be.
Okay, so you were very health aware before.
Yes, yeah, and I've always been someone who exercises regularly and that kind of thing too.
Yeah.
But when I switched my diet, I found that I had so many health benefits from it. So many things improved for me in ways that I just did not expect. And I can't be 100% sure that's down to the diet, because there were no controls. It wasn't a controlled experiment like that. But but a lot of these health improvements came sort of a few months after becoming vegan.
Okay, so I'd love to hear what those are. I mean, what sort of things did you notice?
Well, generally, I found that what the biggest change for me was I was really suffering from the age of 16 with tiredness to the point that my doctor thought I had chronic fatigue syndrome, but I didn't press ahead to get a diagnosis because they couldn't offer me any medication, they couldn't offer me any treatment. All I would do is end up with a label, and I didn't want that to affect any future job prospects and things like that. So I didn't press forward with that.
Of course.
I was really struggling with tiredness. So I could barely keep my eyes open. I was dangerous driving. It was really affecting me every single day. That went about a month or two, well, perhaps more like 2 months after I became vegan, and I now just suffer with normal levels of tiredness if I've overdone it or had a late night. Other than that, I'm a perfectly normal functioning human. You know, that really changed.
That's incredible, and that you attribute to your change in diet. I mean, nothing else significant changed in your life around that time.
Nothing else significant changed in that time, and I've dealt with high levels of stress since being vegan for other reasons. And yes, I do get tired on occasion for various reasons, but you can normally attribute it to something. I don't get unexplained tiredness anymore. And I have.
That's really incredible, isn't it?
It made such a difference to my life. It really did. When you're tired all the time, it's so debilitating, and I can't even begin to explain or convey how debilitating that can be. But no, I kind of came bouncing back, which was really nice.
Of course, I think that level of tiredness is only something you can truly understand if you've experienced it yourself. Because it really affects every area of your life, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and I was aged 16 to 24 suffering with that, and I became vegan at 24, and that's not really an age range I would say I should have been suffering so badly at.
No.
But yeah, since then I've not really suffered with that, and there was a list of other things. So generally my skin improved. I do occasionally get coughs and colds, but for the most part, over the past 4 years, I've had very few illnesses, especially compared to before I was vegan.
Wow.
I used to get coughs and colds all the time. If there was anything going around, you could guarantee I'd catch it. Whereas now that's not the case. At most I might kind of feel like I might be getting a few slight symptoms, but they never properly develop. I rarely kind of develop into a full-on cold or illness.
So your immunity's definitely improved.
Yeah, it does. It does feel that way, and that again was something that happened soon after I became vegan. It just seemed to tail off the amount of illness I was experiencing.
Yeah. Have you noticed any different in sort of your digestion or any sort of digestive symptoms, or was that not really anything that was ever an issue for you?
No, I can't say I've really noticed a big difference in problems with digestion. If I'm honest, I can't really remember.
No.
If I had, but there's no kind of major issues there. But just another thing I noticed, which I really wasn't expecting, and I don't know if this is attributed to the diet, but this happened about 4 months after I became vegan, was I stopped experiencing PMS. That really dropped off. I used to get PMS, just perhaps the same amount as most other girls do, and that really dropped off as well.
Fantastic. Wow. So you really experienced changes in many areas of your health.
Yeah.
And I mean, for people who've been considering a vegan diet and are maybe concerned. I mean, you mentioned you were concerned when you initially started about certain nutrients, and there are a few nutrients that people worry about when they're going onto a vegan diet. For example, vitamin B12, you can only really get through animal sources. How do you take any dietary supplements, or how do you get around that, or do you?
I do. I don't take dietary supplements as such, not in terms of taking tablets or any kind of medicines or anything like that. I just I eat a lot of nutritional yeast with added B12, which adds flavour to my food and has the B12 in it, and that's how I'm pretty sure I'm getting plenty of B12. And in terms of vitamin D, which is the other
one, it's majorly through animal foods.
Yes, I can only eat vitamin D2, which is the vegetarian vegan version of vitamin D, and I get that from eating a lot. I've recently sort of started eating a lot more alfalfa seeds, which has vitamin D in, and which is a natural source. And I read somewhere recently that avocados do as well, but I need to look that up a bit further. But I eat plenty of avocados in my diet anyway. But also I do drink milks such as oat milk and almond milk, which and they're fortified with vitamin D as well.
Okay, and what about your essential fatty acids? So the fats you would normally get through fish and oily fish and things like that. Do you make sure you ensure plant sources of those in your diet? So things like flaxseed, hemp seed.
Yes, I eat a lot of seeds, flax and hemp, and a multitude of others, and also a lot of nuts. I'll eat a range of raw nuts, and I eat plenty of oils and avocado. So I get a good range of fats. And actually, in the past 6 weeks, I've kind of converted to a more raw food diet.
Okay, fantastic. And is that on what basis have you decided to do that? Is that through your own research as well?
Yeah, that was through my own research. I just wanted to be healthier and brighter and maximize on feeling good and improving my health. And
how are you feeling on that?
Health conscious. Yeah, really, really much better for it. It's still early days, but I've really experimented quite a lot with the different foods you can make, like samosas and lasagna and all sorts of different things. And I end up through that incorporating so many fruit and veg and nuts and seeds and oils that I am getting a very well-rounded diet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think it's been really good to hear that, because I think that as a nutritionist, that's my main concern. I mean, I really advocate moving towards a plant-based diet, and I really believe you can have a well-rounded, really, really healthy vegan diet. What's important is that you do understand where the potential nutritional deficiencies are and make sure you compensate for that. And it sounds like you're really knowledgeable and have done that. And I think that's a really good example for people who are listening, who may be considering going onto a vegan diet, is just to make sure that you do seek that advice, either by doing your research or going to speak to someone, and just finding out where potentially you may be missing out on things, to make sure you get them into your diet. Because, I mean, really, a vegan diet rich in fruit and vegetables and whole grains, it's just bursting with everything you need, and the levels of nutrients you can get are unlike following any sort of other diet. But it's just finding out where those things are and making sure you supplement them into your diet. I mean, how easy did you find it to make the change? Did you feel that people around you were supportive? Did you struggle when you went out to eat, anything like that?
Initially, there was a bit of a struggle, because the people around me were also concerned that I wasn't that I wasn't going to get all the nutrition I needed. They felt that it was a inferior diet, and I had to sort of attempt to educate them once I'd educated myself. But also, when you become vegan, if you're doing it for ethical reasons, sometimes just by virtue of being a vegan, you can make other people feel like they're doing something wrong, even if that's not your intention and you're not even talking about it.
Yeah, it's a little bit like when you're not drinking a glass of wine and you go out with a friend and they feel uncomfortable having a glass of wine.
Yeah, I guess if you thought there was something absolutely fundamentally wrong with drinking alcohol, and they're drinking alcohol, then you're just by being there, and even if you're not saying a word, you're kind of suggesting something, they're doing something wrong. Well, that's how people feel, and initially it wasn't that well received, but now it's, my friends accept it, and if I go around their house or whatever, they'll cook for me, and it's not quite the same anymore in that sense. It's much more accepted. But yeah, going out, that's the thing. When you first become vegan, it's a bit of it seems like a bit of a challenge. Like, what am I going to eat? What am I going to eat when I'm in a rush and I just need to nip into a shop and buy stuff as quickly as possible? But you work it out. Once you've looked at enough packets and you know what's okay and you know what's not, it becomes so easy. It's not an issue for me to rush in and out of most shops and buy something, and it's not difficult to go. I mean, I go to all sorts of restaurants and eat I can eat a very nice meal without too much trouble, and you know, I can talk to the chef or ring in advance if I have to, and if it's an establishment I haven't been to before, and quite often I'm accommodated for it. It's very rare that I've ever been turned away.
Yeah, I think it's becoming a lot easier now, not just for veganism, but for people who are on specific diets like gluten-free and dairy-free. I think we are eventually moving with the times, and you can now go into your sort of local coffee shop, cafe, restaurant, and generally most people can get what they want, and you've experienced that.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, if you know what to ask for. You kind of learn the patter. You know what to specify so that you don't kind of end up with a vegan fail as such, where someone feeds you something non-vegan. You kind of work. You find out the pitfalls as you go along, but it seems like a difficult task, but it's not that difficult. And actually, people think, you know, what am I going to eat? I'm really restricting my diet. But actually, when I became vegan, I ended up finding it so exciting, because I was cooking so many different new foods and trying so many different foods all the time. It really kind of made it a lot more exciting and interesting, and it was an enjoyable experience.
And do you think you will be vegan for life now?
Yeah, I mean, you can never say never, but I can't see me going back. I can't see me going back to a standard of health which I'm not happy with, and I can't see me going back on my ethics, because I guess also the other thing about being an ethical vegan is when I became vegan, I kind of started feeling, for want of a better word, I started feeling a bit more virtuous. So I kind of felt like I was being true to myself and like I was doing the right thing. And it kind of unleashed a new happiness and reinforced my identity in a way I didn't expect. So it just seems to be very much a part of me now, and I'd be very surprised if I went back, turned away from the diet.
Yeah, wow, that's really inspiring. Well, thank you so much, Helen. It's been really, really lovely and really interesting and inspiring to talk to you, and I'm sure that everyone who's listened, I think you've really put together a really, really compelling case for moving on to a vegan diet, and it's been great that we've been able to kind of identify some of the potential shortfalls and how you've handled those as well. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the close of today's show. So I hope everyone's enjoyed the show, and as always, you can always contact us here at Nosh Detox if you have any questions about anything we've talked about today or anything else at all. So this has been Living Raw Radio. Please do remember that we are here every Thursday at this time, and next week your usual host, Sidhu-Robb, will be back with you, and we will shortly be promoting what the topic of next week's show is going to be, so do keep a lookout for that. And this show and any other show we've done in the past is available to download on iTunes, so please go to the website, the Nosh website, which is www.noshdetox.com, and you will be able to get information of all of that. Okay, have a lovely evening, everyone. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Detox is an award-winning company for your ultimate health improvement. Nosh Detox system works on all areas of the body, having dealt with thousands of clients whose health dramatically improved within days. For more details, visit noshdetox.com. noshdetox.com.
Bloated? Is your energy levels really low? Do you find everything that you eat goes straight to fat? My name is Candice, and I am the naturopathic nutritionist at Nosh Detox. I am here to tell you that your body needs a rest. If that sounds like you are ready to try a Nosh juice fast. A juice fast is the most natural way for your body to detox, while providing you all the life-saving minerals and vitamins that your body needs and craves. From beginners to advanced juices, we have all the options that may be available to you or suited to you. Call me on 0845 257 6674 or go to noshdetox.com and click on the right program for you. I'm right here to help you and support you. Thank you.
You have been listening to the Living Raw Radio programming. All shows are hosted and provided to you on blogtalkradio.com. Please listen next week where you'll get more vital information from Living Raw Radio and our host, Sidhu-Robb. Until then, live life to the fullest. But remember, living raw is where it's at. Have a great day.